everyone. Welcome to another edition of Wednesday here on ChronoSpeakeasy.com. I am, of course, your host, Paul, joined with the fabulous Rob Nordberg. What's going on, sir?
Not much, just chilling on this fine Sunday afternoon.
I like Sundays on a long weekend. It's like Saturday part two.
It's the best. I know. I was like, what day is it? Sunday? I still don't have to work tomorrow? This is the best.
Dude, 3-day weekends are the best.
Mm-hmm.
Because I
me, it was a 4-day weekend. Or
nice.
I don't know. It's been slow season. I've barely been working. It's been fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I think in general people should have. I think we should switch to a 4 work day, 3-day weekend because there's so many benefits to it. Luckily, I have that. I don't have the 3 days off in a row, but still having that random day off in the middle of the week is like super sweet.
Yeah, a friend of mine works 4 days, then 5 days, then 4 days, then 5 days. Wow. I think that's how it is. I think they're just like 9-hour shifts. So he still works the same hours, but he has a 3-day weekend every other week. And I'm just like, I'd do that.
Yeah, that works too.
An extra hour each day, but you get a whole day off. Like,
yeah, that's sort of how it is too. Because I work 10-hour days. So and it's like, once you hit the 8 hour, it's like, what's 2 more hours?
Yeah.
Especially knowing we
I already work crazy hours.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, you're all over the place.
I
know. So I'm really excited about today's episode because one, we have a focus, and I love focus. So rather than the normal format that some may be accustomed to, we're solely talking about the Fantastic Four because this was, what was it, last week the first issue came out?
It's within the last week or two. Let me try to find the actual release. But yeah, we got a new Fantastic Four comic for the first time in 2 years.
Yeah, and that's kind of a big deal for us, and that's sort of mainly what the today's episode is about, because it's not just doing a book review, but there's a little bit of history too, and why it's kind of so important that Fantastic Four is back. Because for you, the dear listener, who may or may not know, Fantastic Four is what got everything going at Marvel. It's sort of the foundation. It's the foundation of that company, the working relationship between Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. There's just it's a pretty important book, and it has definitely kind of had its share of drama over the years, especially within the last 3 years, I would say. But in the meantime, let's crawl into our time machine. We'll head back to the early 60s. Now, I don't know how true this is, but I've read it in multiple sources, so I think there's some hint of truth in this. Once upon a time, there was this guy, Martin Goodman. He was a pulp magazine publisher. He published paperback novels, adventure magazines for men, and comic books. And he apparently was he was having a golf date with this guy, Jacob Leibowitz, who was his rival because he was the head publisher over at DC Comics. So I just imagine like just two guys, one with like a Marvel shirt and one with a DC shirt with like the character covering their caddies, talking about which heroes were better. But at this stage, though, this wasn't Marvel quite yet. And Leibowitz apparently was sort of kind of bragging about how things were going so well on his end because Batman had been established, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and they had just formed a supergroup called the Justice League of America. And so, Leibowitz was telling Goodman, oh, yeah, it's great and it's awesome. And, Goodman's like, God damn, I need to do that. I need a super team. And he sort of did what, oddly enough, the DC films did. Rather than introducing those characters like Leibowitz and DC were doing, Goodman wanted a super group right away. So he gets in contact with this guy, Stan Lee. Now, Stan Lee, this is, again, early 60s. I think he's like 38 years old. He wanted to write the next great American novel. Clearly wasn't happening. He wasn't happy with the comic books that he was pushing out. And I guess, Goodman was like, I need you to do this superhero team book. And I guess, and according to Jack Kirby, the magazine company was failing so badly that they were moving furniture like out of their office like while they were writing this. And yeah, and so Kirby and Stan Lee, they created the first superhero family. And Fantastic Four is important too because it broke the mold for comics, even at such a relatively early stage for comic books, because their identities were known. They didn't wear masks, and they were incredibly dysfunctional. But it took a little time. I mean, Jack Kirby and Stan Lee get some great quotes from this book called Marvel Comics: The Untold Story by Sean Howe. Great book. Check it out. But Stan Lee says, it took a few days of jotting down 1 million notes, crossing them out, and jotting them down 1 million more until I finally came up with 4 characters that I thought would work well together as a team. I wrote an outline containing a basic description of the new characters and a somewhat offbeat storyline, and gave it to my most trusted and dependable artist, the incredibly talented Jack Kirby. And Jack Kirby has a less than kind of romantic view of its creation. Jack Kirby says Marvel was on its ass, literally. And when I came around, they were practically hauling out the furniture they were beginning to move, and Stan Lee was sitting there crying. I told them to hold everything, and I pledged that I would give them the kind of books that wound up. Wait, that would. Oh man, that was on a good roll. Books that will wind up their sales and keep them in business. So, yeah.
Well, hey, if there's one guy who's going to do it, it's Jack Kirby.
Oh yeah, and it sounds like Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I just love Jack Kirby, like the way he's always portrayed and the way I'm sure he just was, just this like old salty guy who just seems like grumpy. He's just like goes to work every day and does his job, but his job is just like slinging out like 20 full beautifully illustrated comic books a month, and then just like going home, just like working in the mines. It's like, yeah, drew another Fantastic Four book, he's working on this one with kids called the X-Men.
Yeah, and I think that maybe that was I guess kind of a theme with Stan Lee, because Steve Ditko, who co-created Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, he was kind of in a similar light as Jack Kirby, where he just kind of wasn't very, very quiet, kept to himself, a very private person, and and Stan Lee kind of acted, I feel like, as like the perfect kind of showman to kind of get the attention and get the ball rolling. So as Kirby said, Marvel was on its ass, and they kind of really needed success. And I don't think Stan Lee or Kirby or Goodman, I don't think they knew the success that the Fantastic Four was going to be. I like to call this era the birth of the fantastic. And the timing worked very well, because the issue came out August 8th, 1961. Really interesting time. East Germany is just beginning construction on the Berlin Wall.
Also, fun fact, the most recent issue of Fantastic Four came out on August 8th this year.
Oh shit.
So they snuck that in.
Oh man.
I didn't realize the coincidence until right now.
That's awesome. Full circle. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty rad. So yeah, August 8th, 1961. We also had, at Cape Canaveral, we launched the SM-65F Atlas into space. And then a few months prior to this comic coming out, Russia and a craft called Vostok 1, Yuri Gagarin is the first man to be launched into space. So it seems like this was already like kind of like a great time for the arrival of the Fantastic Four. So yeah, it hit the comic shelves, magazine shelves, and they were actually getting fan letters for the first time. I mean, they were getting so much that by the third Fantastic Four issue, Stan Lee started writing or started publishing these letters in a letter page. So that's the start of the Fantastic Four, the start of Marvel. From that, and then from that we got Bruce Banner, the Hulk, Daredevil, X-Men. I mean, Fantastic Four really got the ball rolling. And, like most comics, there's ups and downs for the company, ups and downs. But Fantastic Four was always consistent. I'm not aware of there being a time where, like, the book was dropped. Like it always kind of seemed like a heavy mainstay for Marvel.
Yeah, there's always been a Fantastic Four book in some form up until the end of Secret Wars.
Yeah, and I like
the end of
was it 2015? Yeah, Jonathan
Hickman's run.
Yeah. First of all, I got to say, and I've said this before, I'm not saying this just because it's a Fantastic Four episode. You all know I love Captain America. I'm a huge X-Men fan. But I think Jonathan Hickman's Fantastic Four run might be the best comic book arc I've ever read.
And I still have not read it.
Oh, man, it's so good. It's so good. If you get
Are you talking about... is it Fantastic Four or is it FF? Because he wrote both.
Well, yeah, it's kind of part of the same run. Kind of like Fantastic Four became FF, the Future Foundation, and then and I think when you read his arc, you'll appreciate Secret Wars, because I feel like Secret Wars is sort of like I feel like a good conclusion of what he was doing with Fantastic Four. Yeah, and I like how the team, like the Avengers, the team dynamic was always changing. Like you would have like She-Hulk on the team, and kind of Spider-Man would jump in every now and then. And even for a while, he became an official member of Fantastic Four or Future Foundation during Hickman's run. And I think what really was kind of hurting the comics was because Marvel was going bankrupt. They sold their film rights to different studios. So Sony has Spider-Man. Fox got X-Men, the Fantastic Four. So when Marvel kind of had, Marvel Studios, and they were launching Iron Man and Thor and Cap and Avengers, the success of that was so great, but Fox was just putting out crap. I mean, at least Fox made some good X-Men movies. There are no good Fantastic Four movies, I don't think. There are elements that I like about certain Fantastic Four movies, but as a whole, I don't go out of my way to watch them.
Yeah, I never saw the newest one.
Don't. Ugh, woof.
And I don't think I probably have watched the very first Fox one twice, because I saw it in theaters and I probably bought the DVD because I was dumb and young. But I know I've never seen Rise of Galactus or the Silver Surfer, whatever the second one is. I haven't seen that more than once.
And I got to say, I got to give credit where credit's due. Silver Surfer was pretty great in that movie.
Yeah, I remember him looking pretty cool.
Yeah, but that
Galactus, not so much.
Well, he's a cloud.
Yeah.
Not a fan. So I don't think that helped. So, with Marvel Studios taking off, there was a problem with the Marvel Publishing Company where I guess the thought, and there's a lot of rumor involved here, but it seems like the consensus of what I've read is that Marvel Comics didn't want to give publicity to film rights they don't have. And now, luckily, as I mentioned earlier, Fox was at least making some pretty solid X-Men movies, but the Fantastic Four, there was none. And then Marvel executive editor Tom Brevoort, this is a quote that in an interview with Newsarama back in January of 2016, he said, "Fantastic Four is a title and a concept that has a lot of built-in historical importance in the Marvel Universe, but due to the readership of today, it doesn't resonate the same way that X-Men or Avengers or even Guardians of the Galaxy does right now. It's sort of taken for granted. It's sort of seen as a holdover from another era, which isn't to say that the characters aren't great or the concepts aren't important or that it is in a linchpin of the Marvel Universe, but it's just the facts of the world and the zeitgeist of today. Fantastic Four hasn't been at the forefront." I think it's a bunch of crap because we had Jonathan Hickman's run, which I thought was amazing, and you look at Captain America. I mean, his whole story is being from another era, and he's apple pie and squeaky clean shoes, and his comics are great, So I think that was a very kind of political way of not addressing the real issue. And Jonathan Hickman, when he was asked if he agreed, that there is a disconnect between audiences and Fantastic Four, he says, "Of course not. Not only because my personal experience is that it's not true, but the idea behind I can see the core concept is somehow broken, which is nonsense. Family, future, exploration are timeless, universal concepts. Sure, they can be nostalgic, but they don't have to be. That's really the brilliance of a lot of the early Marvel characters. They were created by guys wrapping both arms around timeless themes. There are some exceptions to this, of course, but for the most part, almost everything Marvel owns is highly malleable and easily exploitable. I'd argue execution is the mission critical element necessary for a Marvel book to succeed. Fantastic Four is no different.
And that is very, very true.
Yeah.
Just because I understand that the Fantastic Four is not the most popular Marvel property. That's why there's not 19 Fantastic Four books, and there never really has been. But it's just like, it was always there. And like you said, with Jonathan Hickman, there were just arcs of it, and you'd be like, oh shit, this is really goddamn good. Or you'd hear about it, and then you'd fall back into it. But it's just like, the Fantastic Four is just like the worlds they exist in within Marvel. You can do literally anything. You can go literally anywhere. It doesn't even have to be a place that exists. You can just make up a new universe. Like
Right.
There's literally the possibilities for their stories are infinite. Like
It's so true. It is so true. And one thing I've always said before, is that I don't care what the story is. I just want it to be good. Like, it's like, you can make a remake after remake, but like until you get it right. I just need it to be good. And, I love this quote. This is from Kwanzaa Ozioff, he's the writer of Black. He was a former DC Comics editor. I love this quote. He says, "Don't tell me a talking tree and an anthropomorphic raccoon can sell, but the Fantastic Four can't." And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And John Barber, who was a one-time Marvel editor and IDW editor, he says, "It's funny, just a few years ago, there were 2 ongoing Fantastic Four comics. So I think it can connect with an audience. You just need the right story and the right hook to drive people in to find out it's the right story." And I think it kind of comes down to getting the right talent, the right artist, the right writer. And you can do anything with, anything with anything, but especially Fantastic Four.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that they could be tricky characters to maybe nail personality wise or whatever if you're not a good team book writer or something. They also have one of the best bad guys in Doctor Doom, who I feel like is also very tricky to write because his power set and motivations are very
Yeah.
He can kind of do whatever for whatever reason, but just his presence and everything is always awesome.
Oh yeah, I'm always happy to see Doctor Doom, and I was always happy to see Fantastic Four appear in other people's books. I always liked it that Reed Richards could be the go-to guy if you were stumped on something. Or even the Illuminati. Like, I love the Reed Richards inclusion in that. So yeah, it just seems, if you haven't gathered by now, Rob and I were pretty shocked that Fantastic Four wasn't going to continue. I mean, the last time, we saw Reed and Susan Storm and the kids was the end of Secret Wars. And that was kind of an interesting, turbulent time for Marvel, because that was sort of Marvel kind of killing everything off and starting with a clean slate.
Which I remember, because we were doing the show at that point, and I remember talking, like, I really liked Secret Wars, and I didn't love all the tie-ins, but the mainline Secret Wars story, I thought Hickman did a really, really good job. And part of that is, like, I loved how Reed Richards was kind of the center. Him and Doctor Doom are kind of like the centerpieces of the whole story. Yeah. And it just shows, like, I've never always read the Fantastic Four comics, so I'm probably partially to blame if there was bad sales or whatever. But just like having Reed Richards and the team like exist in the universe to just pop up here and there was always nice, because like you said, when Reed Richards, he is the smartest person in the whole universe. So he was always just the go-to guy, and he's just too smart for his own good. And I don't know, it's good times.
Yeah. And I think what I love too is that, unlike DC, they weren't perfect, and they sure as hell didn't get along together, but they kind of pulled together when they had to, Johnny Storm was kind of callow and, self-absorbed. And, Ben Grimm was just full of rage and self-pity. And, Sue just kind of always felt neglected by Reed because he could never be present. He was always solving something like I can't tell you how many times I've read a panel where it's like, Reed, you've been down here for days. And Reed's like, oh, it's been days. And he's got a 4 o'clock shadow, hasn't eaten anything because he's getting so wrapped up in something. But I don't know. I like the kind of like, the way they did the Avengers films, where these people like shouldn't be together, but they are, and they kind of have to overcome their insecurities and frustrations with each other to kind of get the job done. And I loved that, despite all of those insecurities and them, kind of not getting along, you had these cool gadgets. That is a pretty badass flying Fantastic Car, and so I thought it was just a neat book, and even some of their villains that are unapologetically comic booky, but I love, like Mole Man.
Mm-hmm.
You got Annihilus, but yeah, of course, Doctor Doom, and I love and they resurrected Namor for Fantastic Four, and I love that he's constantly in love with Sue Richards.
Mm-hmm. So, some of the best stuff is just their sexual tension.
It's great, and I think a lot of the Marvel landscape came from Fantastic Four. So, I think, the argument that I always hear about Fantastic Four is, oh, it's boring. I've never found it to be boring, but that's a very, obviously, personal.
I'm sure there's boring arcs, there may have been a period of time where they just put C-list creators on the book and it just wasn't very good. But like you said, if you put it in the hands of someone like Jonathan Hickman, who was like the writing embodiment of science and dense writing, then you're gonna get something great out of it.
Oh yeah. And I will say, I reread the ending of Secret Wars for this episode, and I found myself liking it a lot more. I think Hickman is kind of one of those guys where when you read a second time, you're like, oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I kind of get it now.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, Fantastic Four is worth it. That was such an incredible read.
Yeah, I have no reason not to read it as a Marvel Unlimited subscriber. I'll leave a note to myself to read that before bed this week.
Oh, yeah. I don't think you'd be disappointed.
I remember reading the end of Secret Wars, and I thought it was a very kind of nice farewell to the Fantastic Four. Like, you can tell Jonathan Hickman was just like, I love these characters. I'm going to give them, if I have to make them go away, I'm going to make sure that they're technically still there and they're kind of the reason that the whole universe still exists.
Right.
And I thought that was nice. Hey, Jonathan Hickman will never work for Marvel again, probably. So
that's too bad. And that's
a damn shame.
I know. And you keep hearing that with so many beloved creators like Ed Brubaker. He's not coming back. But I think if, like you said, if there had to be an ending, I thought it was fitting. So let's go over about what that issue was about. So then in the Avengers, also written by Kirkman, you had those incursions where what universes were just kind of like crashing into each other, and the Avengers couldn't stop it. And so then you kind of had this amalgamation of other things,
So Secret Wars is essentially all of the weird Elseworlds and the 616 and the Ultimate Universe all smashed together into one giant mess.
Yeah.
And the baseline story was about Reed Richards finding out that Doctor Doom was essentially finding a way to use this to become a god, essentially, and shape reality in his favor. Yeah,
he kind of stitched all the existing pieces kind of back together in a weird mishmash planet of, weirdness. But yeah, and also, it's, I liked it, but it is a little confusing because
trying to explain Secret Wars to someone is so confusing.
It is, because certain people from the original timeline survived, like Peter Parker and Reed Richards, because they were in that like stowaway lifeboat thing. and they survived. And I don't know, man. There's like Black Panther with the Infinity Gauntlet, and there's a lot going on. But basically, this was sort of like their DC rebirth, I guess. Except not told in one issue, it's told in 9. But the ending was great because, essentially it's Reed Richards facing off against Doctor Doom. And he kind of just breaks the curse or the hold that Doctor Doom had on it.
Yep.
And so essentially the ending is that the Thing and the Human Torch, they go back to Earth, but Sue and Reed and the kids stay elsewhere.
So they stay kind of back at the center of the multiverse, which is kind of where Doctor Doom had his castle in Secret Wars or whatnot.
Yeah.
And basically they use, what's the dude who's
Molecule Man?
They use Molecule Man as like a infinite power supply,
right?
And Franklin Richards as the infinite imagination creation tool,
right?
And they basically are just sitting there tossing off new universes into the wild.
Yeah, it was like because Franklin would he would make them, then they would take a piece of Molecule Man and go with it, and then Reed would just like throw them like baseballs into space.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that was kind of a very weird but kind of a cool idea that somewhere out there, the reason the multiverse in Marvel still exists is because Reed Richards is throwing universe balls that his son made out into the ether.
Yeah, and that's basically kind of where Secret Wars ends. Everything is made anew. The Ultimate Comics timeline and regular comics are together. Dr. Doom is handsome again. And Ben goes off with the Guardians of the Galaxy for a while.
Yeah, I kind of lost track of where the Thing and Human Torch went after Secret Wars.
Yeah, he was with Guardians for a while, and then Johnny Storm was like an ambassador to the Inhumans.
Yeah.
Was
he like sleeping with Medusa for a while?
I don't know, or Crystal. Weren't they a thing at one point? I don't know. But anyway.
I feel like, yeah, I don't know.
I dropped off from Marvel after Secret Wars for a while. I'm slowly getting back in there. So the issue that came out on August 8th, which was, I think, just so nice. I love that they did that.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until I was just looking on Comixology for the release date, and it said August 8th, 2018. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Look at there.
Yeah. So that's, kind of, I guess, we find, Johnny and Ben and just sort of present day Marvel Universe. So what we have, what was it, like, Ben is just sort of sad and hanging out with
Alicia.
Right. His blind girlfriend, which I love that she's still in there.
Around.
Yeah. And then you got just Ben, Johnny Storm just being obnoxious as usual at a Mets game. Why not? Now, his roommate is Wyatt. Do we know who this dude is? I feel like I should know this, but I don't. They keep saying first name. I know they hinted that he was dating She-Hulk for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's someone. Let me do some quick research. Is it Wyatt Wingfoot?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Wyatt Wingfoot, a fictional supporting character appearing in American comic books published by Marvel Comics. While having no superpowers, he has spent much time in the company of the Fantastic Four due to his friendship with the Human Torch and his relationship with occasional Fantastic Four member, She-Hulk.
Well, that's got to be him.
That's what he is. He is a fictional supporting character, according to Wikipedia.
With no superpowers. His power is to be there and support.
What a rough position that is. It's like, what are you? I'm a fictional supporting character. I'm not even a fictional character. I'm a fictional supporting character.
You know what? One thing I thought was kind of interesting that I learned from this issue too, that Johnny Storm apparently is an amazing singer.
I know. I love how they bring it up at the Mets game and then they bring it back when the thing has the little like flashback machine.
Yeah, I just love like, oh, you know, beautiful set of pipes, and then and I love the juxtaposition of, Johnny Storm being surrounded by women wanting to take selfies with him, and then you have Ben Grimm surrounded by cats.
Yep.
Um, yeah. So, and one thing I did like too is that in the issue, there is this huge Fantastic Four flare that erupts in the sky. And that's a great callback to the first issue, because that's sort of the opening panels is, the Fantastic Four, each individually kind of doing their own thing, and Reed Richards sets off this flare, and that was like, oh, that's our time to action, time to go. So, and I read the first issue after reading this, so I can now really appreciate what they were doing there and why that would be so important to Ben and Johnny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like this whole scene that follows, because you kind of see where Johnny and Ben kind of lie on everything that's happened. Like, Johnny's like the crazy hopeful optimist, and he's just like, oh my God, they're back. And he just shoots off into the distance, and then the thing's just like, let's just go home. It's not them. It's obviously not them.
Right. Yeah, he's just carrying all the groceries home, and he's just so disappointed. Yeah, and just won't allow himself to get his hopes up.
I also just love how excited all the New Yorkers are. Like, the Fantastic Four is like one superhero team that everybody loves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, nobody's like, oh, they're back. Great. It's not like the X-Men. They're just like, yay, finally, they're back.
Yeah, it's really...
and it just speaks for like all of us nerds that are just like, finally, Jesus.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I always kind of thought that was interesting. It was like, why is nobody pointing fingers at the Fantastic Four going, mutants?
I know, they hate mutants, but there's these people who are mutated.
Right.
From cosmic rays.
Yeah,
are fine.
It's like, well, I mean, they weren't born that way. It wasn't their fault, cosmic rays. It's just, I think, sort of kind of like, well, they couldn't help it. It's like, well, being born a mutant, they couldn't help that either.
Yeah,
like I always found that interesting.
Silly.
But yeah, and then so Johnny shows up, and it's just a prank, bunch of kids. And I love how there's even a news report like, oh, false alarm, no Fantastic Four. Sad times for all. And I did like the recap of, their origin of being launched into space and, cosmic rays and,
Yeah, it was a slow news day, so they had to throw the Fantastic Four retrospective out for the crowds.
Right, and I loved, like the interviews they do. Like, you have Medusa, and you got Crystal, and I love Luke Cage. It's like, like, it's a shame, but how those kids. That's why, as a father, I am never doing that shit again, or something to that effect is what he says.
Yeah, and then She-Hulk represents them and the two kids that let the flare off in court, and Johnny's just like, come on, man, go try them as adults. These kids are jerks. And then she's just like, well, too bad. There's no charges being filed. Because the thing, like, just paid for their stuff, and he's just like, just let them go.
Right. Yeah, and what was it? And I guess, what was it? The kids, they vandalized one of the apartments on Yancey Street, and they stole the gun. I love there's like a glass case that says "Original Signal Flare."
Yep, like the thing just has this little apartment where he keeps like mementos of his adventures.
Yeah, and then there's the this kind of like MacGuffin thing. This is kind of mystery box that has this glowing orbit, and that's sort of the flashback.
The crystal ball.
Right, yeah, exactly. Where, they're lost in space, and they're with this alien who's got this orb that you got to sing into, because basically singing it is what could kind of guide them home.
You always sing to the frequency of your home world, so if the frequencies align with your perfect pitch singing, it'll bring you home.
Which I thought was cute.
Yeah, I thought this whole flashback was like a perfect example of like how the Fantastic Four can be fun, because you have the different like character dynamics and just the silly, ridiculous galactic adventures, which is way different than what Hickman was doing with them, but it's just another way that works, which is, more examples of why the Fantastic Four can be good times.
Well, and what I love too. All right, who's the best singer? And Sue Storm was like, me, and everyone was like, Johnny, and she's like, what the fuck, really?
Yeah, she's like, Reed, you said you loved my singing, and he's like, subjectively, yes, but objectively, as a scientist, I have to say that Johnny's timbre is
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep driving the ship. I gotta steer. I gotta focus. That was great. Yeah, and I like the song choice that was a Danke Shane, and I love and of course my immediate thought is Ferris Bueller.
Yep. So when I was reading it, it was just Matthew Broderick singing that in my head.
Well, exactly. I was like, oh, well, this makes sense because Johnny Storm is like the Ferris Bueller of the group.
Exactly.
And Ben is kind of like Cameron. He's just, he's just like the reluctant sidekick who's just miserable. Like, I feel like,
yep.
I never thought of it that way before, but I was like, yeah, he totally is like the Ferris Bueller. Like, act first, think later. Yeah, I thought that was a nice little callback. Yeah, and so it's Johnny's beautiful pipes that get them home. Yeah.
I like how that memory, though, kind of sparks the Thing into being like, that was a good time. Now I'm going to be happy now and do something crazy. And then he goes and proposes to Alicia.
Yeah, which, again, I always liked them as a couple. I don't know how some of the physical stuff works, but I think it's
probably
cute.
A lot of toys involved, substitutes involved.
Yeah, I don't know.
I feel like, yeah. As made famous in Mallrats, I mean,
right? Yeah, what does he say to Stanley? Go like, is the things like?
He's like, is all of the Thing?
Yeah, stone. Yeah, but again, I think it's a cute concept. Because she's blind, but she clearly loves Ben for who he is. Which I gotta say, having Ben as your boyfriend's got to be kind of cool because that like, man, no drunk guy is gonna drunkenly hit on me at the bar with this dude around. Like like he's a fucking rock.
Also a great guy.
Oh yeah,
Grim, great guy.
Oh yeah, I mean he's one of my favorite Marvel characters in general. And Marvel Legends
I feel like you can always leave it to him as being like, the Thing, he's always going to do the right thing.
Right. And I just love just how curmudgeon he is.
Yep.
But yeah, and he's just a man's man of rock. Yeah, and even Marvel Legends is doing an exclusive, it's a Walgreens exclusive coming out, God, I hope soon. But that action figure looks pretty great. The details are great. It even comes with like different hands and 2 different heads for different expressions. So he proposes to her. It's really touching, and he kind of crushed that singing orb thing to make it the engagement ring.
Yeah,
and I love Ben's rocking a suit. I don't know how that chair though, like this, he's sitting in a folding chair, and it's holding him.
I know.
Up.
I've sat in chairs like that. They're like the weird fold out metal with like plywood on top.
I'm like, is that made of unstable molecules? Because god damn, that thing would just buckle so quickly.
I know.
Like,
I like it though. Anytime I see the Thing in like nice clothes, anytime I see him or like the Hulk, any like goofy comic book character, it's like, I mean, there must be tailor, like a specialized tailor who just works with like random superheroes and stuff.
Yeah, it's great, and I love like the pants. They're like high waters. They're just like way above his ankle. What's the point of wearing shoes?
Yeah, no shoes. That's fine.
And yeah, and I love that he kind of breaks the news. Like, what's the he just shows up all hot and bothered. I mean, literally, he just comes from the sky aflame, and he's like, well, what's the emergency? And he's like, oh, it's we want you to be the first to know that we're engaged, and and Ben is kind of reaching out to Johnny Storm with this like emotional olive branch because they've always kind of
butted heads.
Yeah. And he's like, fate brought us together and it made us more than friends. We're family. You're like a brother to me, Johnny. So I'm asking, how'd you like to be my best man? And it's all touching and shit. And Johnny's like, no. Like, just big red letters, no. And then, like, poor, what's her name, Alicia?
Yeah.
She's like, oh boy. Ben's like, what is the matter with you? And Johnny's getting all worked up because he thinks that Reed Richards is the one who should be the best man. And I think this is sort of where this issue kind of reaches its emotional crescendo, because it's, I think, kind of finally you're seeing the two of them together, but also addressing the elephant in the room and their very different stance on, hope, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because, Johnny is convinced that they're alive, and he's just like, like Johnny says, like, you're the one that lost faith, they're still out there. And Ben says, we checked under every damn rock in the multiverse. Reed, Sue, and the kids are gone. That's all there is to it, and the rest of us, we owe it to them to go on living. Yeah, and so yeah, I thought that was a pretty good moment. And I love Johnny kind of just rocketing into the sky, screaming out to Reed about kind of getting a sign,
Mm-hmm.
and and he kind of comes back down to earth, and there's literally like just kind of tears exploding out of his eyes. And then it's just kind of when Johnny kind of, I think, like literally comes back to earth from his kind of hopeful cloud that it's done. And
then we see that beard.
Yep.
That Reed Richards beard still hasn't shaved.
I love how, like, you see Reed and Sue, and their clothes are shit, like, just like torn. And I was like, in all this time, like,
yeah, he built this crazy machine that can project a giant number 4, but he can't just make his family a new pair of pants.
Right?
He's like, I'm a scientist, damn it, not a stitcher. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so yeah, he kind of sets off that signal, and right when Ben and John are having that moment, and then you kind of see the people who were in the interview, like Medusa and Crystal and Luke Cage having his sweet Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, there's not only is there like a giant 4 in the sky, but it's like in space, like it's like,
yeah,
it looks like it's bigger than the planet Earth.
Cool shot.
It is. And the end of this first issue, which I really liked. I don't know, what were your thoughts on this issue, Rob?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a first issue.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I would have liked to have the whole team get back together, but I'm sure that's not too many issues behind, hopefully.
Well, I mean, there's a kind of like a tease in one of like the side stories at the end that the reunion is happening in the next issue.
Yeah, this honestly felt like a 0 issue back when they used to do those.
Yeah.
Before like a new issue where they'd be like, build you up, like catch you up on what's been going on, and then kind of get you ready.
Yeah. And I did also like that we kind of make a side trip to Latveria.
Mm-hmm, and for the backup story. Right.
And so we got Doom, or what we think is Doom, and he's got all his Doom bots. I love, to all the portraits of Doom in the castle. Like,
yep.
There's like a picture of Doom like storming away from like a window, and another picture of Doom just like sitting in a chair, and like it's hilarious. And I didn't realize, because I'm so behind on everything, that I guess Doom is ugly again.
Yeah, I only read the first like couple issues of the, what is it, like the Irredeemable Iron Man, or the Beautiful Iron Man, or the Dr. Doom Iron Man, or the
we're not sure what to title this Iron Man series.
Yeah, but yeah, so it seems like Latveria is just a real rough place to live if Dr. Doom's not in charge.
Right? Like, yeah,
they're just like,
we need our
warlord
savior.
After warlord just comes back on. And then
yeah, and I love that he's just like Doom looks like he's just got like a dirty towel with rope wrapped around him.
Yep.
It's like a dirty loincloth. I don't know. And he's got his magic
he goes out to like take back control of Latveria, and he's literally just in a bath towel with ropes around him, and he's like, I don't need shit. I don't need help from nobody. I'm Doom.
Yeah, God, what is he with people and clothes? It's like, you're so intelligent or rich or both, but you're gonna walk around in rags. Like, if I came into somebody's house and they just got a bath towel and like a cloak on, I'd be like, I'm gonna come back later. Clearly,
Yeah, it's
now
like,
is not a good time to talk.
yeah, just give me a call. I'll be close by.
Yeah, yeah, and I like that. What was it? This chick that he's talking to. She takes off the faces of one of the Doom bots and gives it back to him. Yeah, and I just love Doom. And then he's just like back out in the streets, being like,
Barefoot
yeah,
in a
right,
bath towel.
yeah, I'm back, and I can fly, and I'm putting on the light show with my hands, and yeah, and it's like you knew that like if Fantastic Four was going to come back, then Doom would have to,
Yeah, obviously.
be there somewhere. So I thought that was a kind of nice little like post credit scene for the book. And I noticed that's kind of like the kind of the new thing, because they did that with the new issue of Spider-Man too. That there was like a couple of like post credit scenes in the first
Marvel,
issue.
they need all kinds of post credit scenes.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and then of course you have what was it? Yeah, you had that little 90s, was it Mr. Impossible Man? Little green dude. He was all upset that, they can't be in the same book. And then I'm assuming that might be the Stan Lee delivery man from Civil War. Or I feel like he's been kind of drawn up as like a delivery guy before, and just saying that, the next issue is going to be, where they all come back together again.
The band will finally be back together.
Yeah, and I think it was a well done first issue. Kind of got everything set up to where it needed to be, and yeah, I liked it. Gosh darn it.
Yeah, I'm down. I will keep reading. I hope they can keep up momentum, so this all wasn't just to have a mediocre Fantastic Four book on the shelves.
Right, yeah, and I hope that they're here to stay, and there won't be any more kind of media politics kind of going on. I think, in a way I can kind of understand where Marvel was coming from, kind of dropping Fantastic Four, kind of pulling back on some of the X-Men books, but I don't know. At the same time, I also think it's just kind of like an incredibly shitty thing to say. Nobody reads this stuff.
Yeah, it's such a petty thing for the fans, because like there are some comic books that only have like 10,000 people that read them monthly, which may seem like a lot, but back in the 90s, there was over 1 million people reading X-Men every week or every month.
Yeah.
So 10,000 is very small, but it's like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And it just
10,000 people at $4 a pop. Just pay some creative team some money and just keep it alive.
And it's one thing to end a series, but have the characters sort of living on elsewhere, like Ben and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But to literally just be like, Reed and Sue, they're just in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like, they are so far removed from everything that we really don't have to worry about offering any kind of an update.
Mm-hmm.
That they're just...
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. It's like they can't even pop up in other books because they're literally... no one can get there. Like, it's they're where universes are created, wherever the hell that is.
Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think it's, I don't know. I've been kind of waiting for a moment like this for Marvel to kind of entice me back into reading, because I just haven't in so long. But it's just so funny with this Fox Disney business. I mean, God, how many X-Men books are there now? There's like blue, gold, red. Now there's going to be a black series.
Yeah, there's, as soon as like the stuff started happening again, they're like, all right, we got to ramp up production on X-Men again.
Man. So yeah, I mean,
how long do you think, now that it's legit that Disney bought the assets, before we get Fantastic Four movie?
I don't know. I want to say, well, from what I can gather, I think everything will be officially official. Maybe 6 months to a year from now. So I think that either one or two things is happening. Either A, they are working on something. They just can't publicly say it because legally they can't. They might have somebody kind of. They may have Kevin Feige with like a bunch of, I don't know.
Oh yeah, they definitely have some people in a room
like with red string and figuring out
yeah.
how it's all going to come together. But yeah, it might be, I don't know, maybe like 2 or 3 years from now, maybe just in terms of like writing and pre-production, casting, and getting all that together.
I hope they don't age them down.
So like, hey, I'm Reed Richards. I'm a 20-something genius.
Or kind of like the ultimate Fantastic Four, where they're in like a think tank as like teenagers.
Well, that's what the new movie was, pretty much. Was the whole, and that's why Reed Richards was younger, and I don't know, forget that noise.
Reed Richards, he's got to have the gray hair,
yeah,
or at least like, on the cusp, like.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine doing like an emancipation movie? Emancipation, I can say it. Movie with a young Abe Lincoln and no beard.
Mm-hmm.
Hey guys, I'm Abe Lincoln. Slavery's dumb. It's like there are some key elements you need there. That was probably a very dramatic example, but yeah, I was trying to think of like famous facial hair that we just couldn't live without.
Him and Sue should just be married. Like, yeah. We shouldn't have to go through the whole romance nonsense. They should be married.
No. Yeah.
So that way, when Namor gets introduced eventually, there's more than just sexual tension. There's like marital tension.
Right. I think that they should do it the way Spider-Man Homecoming did, where the origin's been established.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna say it again. I kind of like my idea where the Fantastic Four has been around for a while, and that they were kind of like big celebrities in the '60s, and you can kind of borrow from oh God, I'm blanking on the name of the writer. He did this when there were 2 Fantastic Four books out. I'm gonna remember his name as soon as this episode is over. Matt Fraction. He where Reed Richards is like, all right, She-Hulk and Ant-Man, they're going to be the new Fantastic Four. We're going to go on this adventure. For us, we'll be gone for a year, but for you, it's going to be like that. And then, of course, they don't come back. And I think that'd be cool in a movie where they go, and when they finally come back, rather than it being 1961, it's 2020. And I think that way the technology they're using can be retro-futuristic. The cool 60s Kirby vibe. I don't know. I like a time displaced Fantastic Four in a Marvel movie, and they can just be so like 60s ish, like Reed Richards smoking from a pipe. Like, how old are you? Like, I'm 32. Really?
Yeah, they've done the period piece thing so many times. I think that would work. Even if they did want to do the origin story again, do it in the 60s.
Yeah.
So like during the space race, this is all happening like this, because everybody loves a period piece. Yeah. You could have early SHIELD people. You could have, and then you could have them disappear like in the end of the first act or something, and then bring them back to bring them back to the future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good start, because I don't know, this makes no sense what I'm about to say, but for some reason, comic book period piece movies feel more realistic to me, even though like they clearly didn't happen. But I'm like, oh yeah, that could happen. Like, I don't know what it is, but like seeing like Captain America like running around in like what was it, like late Depression America, or even like Wonder Woman like somewhere in Germany during World War I. I buy it. I don't know why. Like I think maybe because I'm just so far removed from that time that I'm like, oh yeah, maybe this could have happened.
Even if they did a period piece in the 60s, and then the Fantastic Four movies just kind of took place in the 60s. Like, there's just a series of movies that took place in the 60s, and there's like hints at like a Howard Stark doing something, or like a young Hank Pym, or all these like names and shit. You can have like some super young kid that looks like Samuel Jackson walking around or something.
Oh God, great.
And then maybe like 2 or 3 movies in, something weird happens, and they, for the next Infinity War era like scale event,
maybe with King the Conqueror.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that would have been great too if like they come back to present day New York and they see the Avengers Tower and like, what the hell is that? Where's the Baxter Building? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, there could just be so many, and maybe even the villain that they have to fight. maybe he can be, he could make it so that, well, we made it so that, the Fantastic Four never existed. Like, we wiped you from the history books, kind of do like a century thing. I don't know. I think the possibilities are endless, like the Fantastic Four's adventures.
Yeah. Marvel made Thanos work in a movie. Let's see Kang.
Oh my God. Kang the Conqueror. Yeah, dude. Galactus, Kang the Conqueror, Annihilus. I mean, Doom. Oh my God, dude. Can you imagine an Avengers Doctor Doom movie?
I want Doom and I want Magneto.
Oh,
so bad.
I do too. And that's the other thing too, is like, how would they explain mutation? Like, well, the Infinity War unlocked a particular gene in a very limited particular group of people. I don't know. I mean, that's the nice thing about not just one MacGuffin, but 6. Where like, you can literally change time, space, reality.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? And I think at that point, like, I was pitching that to somebody, they're like, "Oh, come on!" I'm like, "Have you not seen the other 19 Marvel movies?" Like, I mean, at this point, they
literally
can do whatever.
Also, after Infinity War came out, they have this whole gap in time. All these transactions happen. They're like, "All right, we need to slide these 3 lines of dialogue into this next movie to make a bunch of other shit make sense 4 years from now."
Yeah.
So then people ask, they're like, "Hey, we planted the seeds."
Yeah, exactly.
Someone just turns and looks from a computer and they're like, "What's this gene thing that mutated?" They're like, "You shut up." Okay.
What's an unstable molecule? Like, yeah, I mean, it could work. I just know that if that happened in a movie, I would buy it. But yep, okay, I'm there. I'm sold. Whatever it takes to get Fantastic Four and X-Men in.
More so, like, I love the X-Men. I want to see them done right, the Marvel way. But the Fantastic Four just seems like such an easy fit.
Yeah, and
like, they don't have, there's way less legwork to do. It's literally 4 characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I used to say, and I think I said this because of just the amount of bad movies they made at Fantastic Four. Because you think about it, there's technically 4 bad Fantastic Four movies. The first one was so bad with that Roger Corman Fantastic Four. I thought that maybe it just can never work as a movie, and I think that that's not true. I think if done right, like you were saying earlier, you get the right screenplay writer, the right director.
They made a Guardians of the Galaxy 2 movies and they worked. There's no reason a Fantastic Four movie can't work.
Yeah, I mean, and they're explorers, I mean, what's not to love about that? I even liked, what was that one line from, I almost called it Stranger Things, Secret Wars, where they're like, oh, when their daughter Valerie was kind of explaining what was going on, and Sue Storm was like, oh, so we're like Lewis and Clark, and she's like, yeah, if Lewis and Clark was creating the land they were exploring. I mean, so yeah, they can do anything. And also, I would love to see a better Galactus.
Yes,
who looks like a dude with a giant metal helmet.
Yeah, I want to see a big bucket-headed dude in the sky.
Yeah, and yeah, Silver Surfer. Again. God, I can only imagine, like, because I thought, for the time that the second movie was made, I thought Silver Surfer looked pretty good. And that whole bit when he's standing on his board and then he just kind of goes down and comes out on the other side, like, the cosmic stuff for the Surfer worked well in a movie, and I can't even imagine how CGI has advanced since when it was made, how great it would look now.
I'm down. I'm ready.
I am down and ready as well. So for all those listening, check out the new Fantastic Four. It's pretty good. We just sort of summed up everything that's happened, so you can just jump on in and read. That being said, I do recommend reading the Jonathan Hickman Fantastic Four in FF, because hot damn, is it good. And if you really want to do your homework, read that and the Hickman Avengers, and then Secret Wars, and you'll just get the full package.
Yeah.
Maybe my 2 cents.
It's good stuff. Fantastic
Absolutely.
Four.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Fantastic Four is, for lack of a better word, amazing. Yeah. And at this point, you guys all know the drill. Actually, one thing I will say, I'm going to do a little bit of a plug. Angela, who is one of the founding members of our podcast, launched her own YouTube series, Frequent Attempts to Adult. Check it out. She's got 2 videos up. It's only a few days old. So yeah, she tackles important life questions and how to do things like getting the energy to clean your apartment. You know, the real things adults tackle every day. You know, may not be facing somebody like Galactus or Doctor Doom, but doing the dishes, shit, that is my Doctor Doom. So check that out. Frequent Attempts to Adult. It's on YouTube. Don't forget, we're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Drop us some love on iTunes. We need your love. I know it's a little forward, but I don't care. We need it. We thrive on it. And as always, enjoy your issues.